little better because we're all entrepreneurs and you know we're overachievers. So, as overachieving entrepreneurs, how's everybody doing today? Love it, James. Awesome. As you guys can see out there, my name is Daniel. I started a business fairly young. I started when I was 19, as Lou said, and you know, it's been an interesting journey to say the least. It's been very fulfilling. Been able to achieve some of the high ranks in our industry, which is a $200+ billion industry today. And but that's not really where my story started. Okay, see, today I go out and I speak in front of groups like this and meet lots of people, and they hear all these things about me. That's not really who I am. So is it okay if I share with you guys who I really am today?
Yeah.
All right. So I had to actually make up a slide here to remember who I really am. I was born and raised in Albania in 1986. So for those of you that are familiar with geography, you know that Eastern Europe during the 80s to about mid-90s, that was a communist country. So I can remember as a little kid, my parents and grandparents literally waiting in bread lines and milk lines just to get food for us. Okay, could you imagine? I'm sure some of you youngsters can't, right? Because now you just go to 7-Eleven or any grocery store and you're all set. But that's kind of how I grew up. And my parents did their very, very best to raise me and my two siblings. I'm the oldest of 3 kids. And in our culture, that's a big deal. It's a big thing. You really have to be responsible when you're the oldest of 3, right? Especially as the oldest son. So, growing up we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of love and, a lot of camaraderie because everybody around us was fairly in the same position, right? And my parents started this entrepreneurial journey way back then. They both were business owners. My dad actually owned a little welding shop. My mom owned a small little grocery store. We called it a grocery store there, but in comparison to real grocery stores, it was more like a kiosk, right? So that's kind of my background. And then in 1997, my parents actually had the opportunity to move to the United States. And they took that opportunity. I mean, the first chance they had, they grabbed at it, right? They sold everything that they had, left everybody and everything they knew behind to move to a country where they didn't even speak the language, okay? And I came with them because I didn't have a choice. I was 11 years old. So, and that turned out obviously to be the best move of their lives and mine as well, because we came to a country where, we have abundant opportunities here. We have, so much more here than anywhere else in the world that it's mind-blowing. And when you come from a background like mine, you learn to appreciate those things. That's why so often you see people that come here from all around the world, and then you have people that grew up here that work for those people. Okay? I know that hit home to some people, but it's the truth. Okay? Where's my PowerPoint? What's going on today?
Here we go.
We're back. Okay. So, at age 19, I did buy that restaurant. I worked in restaurants since we moved here. I was 11 years old when I got my first job and worked my way up in that restaurant business. I started off as a busboy, and then I was a dishwasher, and then I was a prep cook, and then a cook, and a kitchen manager. So by the time I was about 17, 18 years old, I was actually managing the entire restaurant. And it just happened to be my cousin's restaurant, right? Because you really can't get a job at 11, traditionally. So I was introduced to network marketing by one of the customers at my restaurant, the one that I bought at 19, and he really opened up my eyes. This guy had just got started. He was super excited about it, and just based on his enthusiasm, I decided to go to a meeting very similar to this. The room was a little bigger. There was a few more people there, but I met people that would, that were retired pharmacists, retired doctors, retired lawyers, and none of them looked old enough to be retired to me. So I said, well, how's this possible? You look like you're in your mid-40s. How could you be retired? They said, well, I've been doing this network marketing thing, started part-time, and I was able to make enough income to retire early, right? Who wants to retire early here today? Just about everybody, right? So that's some of the principles that I'm going to share here with you today are things that I learned over the last 10 years being in this industry and being around some of the people that I've had a chance and an opportunity to be around because of what I've achieved. I've been around some of the top earners in our industry, learned from some of the best of the best. So I love sharing these principles with everybody because it's not something that only applies to what I do. It's something that you can apply in your business today, okay? So that's why I wanted to come out here and share a little bit about raising the bar. Now, if you saw that first slide, right, if you're taking notes, you're definitely going to want to write this down. The bar in your life stands for belief, action, results, okay? We all understand and know this, right, that belief, if you believe big enough, we've heard these things over and over again sometimes, right? But if you believe big enough and you take enough action, the results are inevitable. They're gonna happen, right? But sometimes we don't believe big enough, so we never really go to that second step, which is the action step. And that's important. You know, how many people do you hear talk about wanting to make $1 million? We've all heard these people, we've all met, right? But they never did. Why? They never started, right? The journey of 1,000 miles starts with that very first step. So, faith, right? This is the definition of faith for me anyways. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not yet seen. I forgot the yet part. Okay? That's what faith is. So basically, it's seeing what you want before it becomes, before it manifests in your life, right? A lot of times you hear, people talk about seeing is believing. But really, the opposite is true. Believing is seeing, because if you can believe you can do something, you'll take enough action, right? And then again, inevitably, it has to happen. So, one of the mentors that I had in this industry, this is about 4 or 5 years ago, this gentleman became the #1 income earner in the entire industry of network marketing. Again, $200 billion industry at the time. He was earning a little over $1.5 million a month. Okay, a residual. So if he took the whole month off, he got $1.5 million. If he went to work, he did a little better. Okay? So one of the things that I learned from that gentleman was you don't get what you want in life, you get what you picture. So not only do you have to believe big, but you have to really see it in your mind and build that lifestyle that you want to live in your mind before it manifests. Okay? Because when you have a clear picture of what you want and where you're going in life, then you'll go to work for it, day and night. So one of my favorite books, some of you guys have read Think and Grow Rich or heard of Think and Grow Rich, right? Best-selling business book of all time. Matter of fact, I'm going to give myself a little pat on the back here right now. Hope that's okay with everybody. Matter of fact, I'm going to be featured in their next book. They have a book called Journeys to Success. Myself and 20 other entrepreneurs from all over the world are featured in that book. I just finished my chapter. The book will release at the end of next month. Okay? So we're excited about that. This is one of the very first business books that somebody, and I can't remember who did this for me, right? Because I would definitely thank them today, but somebody at one of those network marketing meetings put this book in my hand. It sat in my car for a while, okay? And then it sat on my shelf at home for a while. Then it sat on my desk for a while. And then it sat in my office at the restaurant for a while. But about 2 years after I got it, I actually picked it up and read it. Okay? It made so much sense to me. See, nobody had taught me these things before. And this is not something that you can go and learn in college. Now, I'm all about education, but personal development is a whole other level of education. Okay? So what I learned from the book was that thoughts are things. That's actually the first 3 words in the book. Thoughts are things, right? Matter of fact, thoughts become things. Because when you think something hard enough and long enough and take the action for it, it'll manifest in your life. Okay? And whatever the mind of a man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. That's something else that I learned from the book. So you have to learn how to take possession of your own mind. See, a lot of times, we go out there, and these are some high-level things I'm sharing with everybody today. So if you're new to personal development, you're probably looking at this stuff going, well, boy, that sounds hokey. Okay? But I'll tell you what, I'd rather be really, really hokey and really, really rich than really, really right and broke. Okay? But I have some evidence here that I'm going to share with you on the very next slide that these things have actually now been proven to be real by science, not just thinking and philosophy. Okay? So all things are possible to those that believe is what we learn from the Bible. Okay? A lot of the things that I learned from Think and Grow Rich are actually biblical principles. Napoleon Hill actually studied, I think it was over 200 of the wealthiest people at the time, like Henry Ford, because the book was written in the 30s. Okay? Napoleon Hill was Henry Ford, right? If you live in Detroit, you know who he is. Because every other building is a Ford building, right? He studied people like Andrew Carnegie, the wealthiest man in the world at the time, that commissioned him to write this book, and many, many others. So by going out there and interviewing over 200 self-made millionaires and billionaires at the time, in the 30s, when $1 million was like $1 million. Okay? That's what he actually came up with. Those are just a couple of the things. I strongly recommend that you read the book. I don't get paid for plugging it, by the way. So all things are possible to those that believe is what we learn from the Bible. And Henry Ford himself actually has been quoted as saying, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're absolutely right. Okay? So here's some of the science behind this stuff. So it's actually been proven now that thoughts really are things. They have an electronic frequency that can be measured. Okay? And the proof of that is that Honda actually has a wheelchair today for paraplegics that connects right to your brain without pushing any buttons or touching anything. You can actually control that wheelchair with your mind. You can tell it to go straight, and guess what it does? You just think straight, and it goes straight. You think left, it goes left. You think right, it goes right. Okay? So beyond the shadow of doubt, these things have not been proven to be real. Okay? Dr. Shed Hemstetter, actually one of my favorite books, I just got done rereading it, is the book is What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. You guys realize that 70% of the conversations we all have are with ourselves. Okay? So if you're constantly thinking these thoughts of lack, poverty, right? Of just the bad stuff, right? Mom taught us young. Put bad in, you get bad out, right? Put good in, you get good out. But it's basically what the book boils down to. But it goes a lot deeper than that. He actually did a lot of research behind that, and he figured out that you can actually program yourself. One of the other things that he figured out is that by the time we were 3 years old, we heard 3 words. Just 3 words, more than any other words by the time we were 3 years old. Do you guys know what those words are?
No.
No is one of them.
Good.
Stop is the other one. And don't. No, stop, and don't. Okay? By the time we were 3. So before we even, were out in the world, we were already being programmed to know, to stop, and to don't, right? That absolutely blew me away when I read that, right? Because it just made so much sense. So I really dove a little deeper, and I figured out that you can actually program yourself for success or for failure based on the thoughts that you think all day long. Since the 70% of the conversations that we're having anyways are with ourselves, well, how about just changing the conversation? We can all do that. It's a very easy shift to make, right? It doesn't take a lot of effort or energy. You will at first, but when you make that shift, the magic happens, right? Because those positive thoughts, thinking, you know what, I can do this. You know what, I am able, I am willing. Okay? I have this skill. I have what's necessary.
Thank you.
When you think those thoughts all day long, they start to take root and they really start to manifest in your life. Okay? So what are you programming yourself to do today?
To learn.
It's a good question to ask yourself, right? To learn, absolutely. You gotta have that hunger, as Les Brown says. I can't say it like him. Okay? So you gotta be hungry. Because you gotta want to learn, guys. I mean, that's where all of these things that I'm sharing with you today, these aren't my ideas. I didn't come up with this stuff. I didn't do the research like these people did. I just read them from a book, and then I applied them. And then I reaped the rewards for it. Okay? Because if I had to go out and interview 200 of the wealthiest people in the world today, it'd probably take me some time. If I could even get in front of them, right? But somebody else did that for us, so why not learn from their experience? Okay? That's a sad picture, right? But here's how conditioning works. Now, when they're training elephants for circuses and for the zoo, what they actually do with a baby elephant when it's about that big is actually put that big heavy chain around its ankle, and they usually tie it to a very thick tree or a block of cement. That elephant can never ever move. And that elephant will struggle, it will fight, it will kick, scream, and bite to get free. Okay? And for some time, it'll continue to do that for about 90 days. And then it will stop. And then you know what the trainer does? They actually take that chain off, and they put a really thin rope around its leg, and they tie that rope usually to a stake that's barely even in the ground. Because the minute that elephant feels resistance, it will stop fighting. Because it's now been conditioned to think, I cannot break free from this. And there's so many people out there, every single day they're conditioned at their job, right, by friends and family sometimes, by just different aspects of life. We get conditioned to think a certain way or behave a certain way, and then we don't ever try to break free. And it happens in business so often. I remember when I first got started, when I first bought the restaurant actually, before I bought it, I was talking about buying it. I was in high school, okay? I I was part of the class in high school. I made the top half look really good. No plans of going to college. That was a joke. You're supposed to laugh. Okay? No plans of going to college. My friends, my mom and dad, my cousins, aunts and uncles, you know what they all told me? You're crazy. There's no way they're going to take your college fund, because that's what I took to buy the restaurant, was my college fund. There's no way you're going to do that. You're going to run a business within a year. You don't have the skills. You don't know what you're doing. You're too young, right? See, so many times people tell us we're too young until they start saying you're too old. So when is the right time? Now. Absolutely. So you see, that elephant gets conditioned, right? And then they can pretty much control it with a string. As long as it feels resistance, it's done trying to fight. So you got to learn how to condition your own mind and your own self so that you break free. Now, I want to talk about compound interest. Do we have any bankers, financial people in the house? Okay, there's a couple of you guys, finance people. Okay, now what's the best way to build wealth? Passive income. Passive income and compound interest, right? Let it compound. Well, do you guys realize that you can actually compound those thoughts that you have to get even better results than any amount of money can ever get you? Okay? This works the same way. You see, if you take a penny, James, my finance guy back there, so if you take a penny and you build that penny every day for 30 days, James, you knew that you'd get over $2 million, right?
The best part though is day 30.
Day 30, over $5 million.
That's right.
Okay?
2.9 million in one day.
That's pretty fantastic. That's a good day. Okay? But you can do the same thing by thinking the right thoughts and picturing your goals accomplished. Okay? And speaking them as if they're already done, if it's already completed. Okay? And it works like compound interest with those thoughts. You see, because I was surrounded by those people when I was 19 years old, I don't know what it was for me that made me actually pull the trigger and buy the restaurant. I don't know. I can't explain that to you. Okay? Because if I had listened to everybody else, I never would have done that. I would have went to college, got a soft, cushy job, 50, 60 grand a year, and been, content. But I'm happy. There's a big difference between happiness and content, guys. A big disconnect. So now that I, went and made that move, and I actually got involved in network marketing, sold the restaurant 3 years, and been doing this full time for the last 3 years, it's been an incredible journey. And I know myself well now because I've studied for so long. I understand that mentally I'm unemployable. You can't hire me. Okay? I need to work for me. And I want you guys to know the difference between thinking and believing big. Well, not thinking and believing, but I want you to know the difference between thinking big and believing big and thinking small, believing small. This is an old story. Some of you may have even heard this before, but there's a pro golfer that actually got called up to go play golf and coach the King of Saudi Arabia. This happened, I want to say it was in the 80s, quite a while ago. Okay? I don't even remember the name of the pro golfer, but it's not important for the story. You see, this guy, and gladly took the chance and said, man, the Prince of Saudi, the King of Saudi Arabia wants me to go and coach him and spend a whole week with him and all these things. And he's going to treat me, fantastic for doing it. So he took the trip, he took the challenge on, and he went and played golf with the king for a whole week and, coached him and trained him on some new things. And before he left, the king said, hold on a second. He said, I want to thank you for coming here and spending this time with me, and I want to give you something. And the guy said, oh, King, you don't have to do that. I've had a great trip. You treated me so well. You paid for everything. It was an honor to really just be here and serve you. And the king said, no, I insist. What is it that you want, right? Anything you want, you name it. And the golfer said something like, well, I collect golf clubs. Real odd, unique ones, antique golf clubs. He said, so just give me that antique golf club. I'm good with it. So about a week went by, and the guy got back home. He lived in South Florida, and he checked his mailbox every day for this golf club. He was really looking for it. He's like, I wonder what he's going to send me. Maybe it'll be made of gold or encrusted in jewels or something really fancy, right? This is from the King of Saudi Arabia, one of the wealthiest men on the entire globe, right? So for weeks, he kept going to the mailbox and nothing. He goes, man, this guy really must have forgot about me, right? And he goes down the mailbox. This last time, he sees a yellow, big, thick folder envelope, right? One of those special delivery envelopes. And he opens it, and inside was the deed to a golf club in South Florida. Okay? So you see, this guy was thinking golf club, and the king was thinking golf club. Okay? That's the difference between thinking big and thinking small. Now, the second part of raising the bar in your life is taking the appropriate action. Okay? Because the thoughts are one thing, and it's great to be positive and think positive and be optimistic. I know Ike's part of the Optimist Club, and Lou's part of the Optimist Club, and that's great. But you got to take the action that's appropriate to build whatever that dream or that goal is for you. So action towards the goal begins the process of manifestation. So you take a step, and whatever you believe in, I'm not here to preach to you today, but I do that sometimes as well. Whether you believe in God, the universe, whatever it is for you, every time you take a step, know that the universal God takes a step with you. Okay? Every time you take a step. Because none of us can do it on our own, guys. Get that out of your head. Nobody is self-made. Okay? We all have help along the way, or have help along the way. So one can't say that I want to be wealthy, rich, successful, etc., and watch TV all day long, like so many average people do. They sit at home, they go put in the 9 to 5, right, minimal effort, go home, watch TV from 5 to 11, go to bed, wake up the next day, do it all over for 30 or 40 years. And then hopefully you got something put aside after that 40 years goes by, right? But see, we're entrepreneurs, we think differently. We do different things. So that's not, I wouldn't recommend that for anybody, even people that are not entrepreneurs, but that's what most people do. That's why you have these silly reality TV shows. There's so many of them. Who watches this crap? Right? But somebody's watching them because they keep cranking them out. So somebody's paying attention, right? I mean, I turn the TV on for like 20 minutes, right, to watch. I like The Big Bang Theory. I'm a fan of that show. It's a good show. It's really funny. But you watch it on TV, and the show is like 8 minutes, and then there's 28 minutes of commercials. So I stopped watching it on TV. I watch it online now. Netflix. Okay? This decision must be determined you got to make this decision with a determination and no turning back type of mindset and mentality, guys. And you must burn the ship of retreat. Okay? You got to burn that ship, because if you have a retreat option, more often than not, you will. Because it is crazy to go all out. It is outside of the ordinary. But if you want outside of ordinary results, you've got to do extraordinary things. Okay? And Napoleon Hill in the Think and Grow Rich said, there's no such thing as something for nothing. And we've heard that time and time again. He wasn't the first to say it. He definitely wasn't the last. But there's no such thing as something for nothing. There's a certain amount of action that has to be taken for you to get the result that is required. It's like a formula. 2 plus 2 is always going to equal 4. Okay? But if you put compound interest to work, then it works a little better, a little faster for you. So, making the decision. This is something you must decide immediately. Okay? The word decision, actually the root word is incision, to cut or cut away or cut off, break away from, right? So sometimes when you make a decision to go all out and build whatever business you're in, right, whatever opportunity you're a part of, or whatever it is that you do in life and in business today, you got to make the decision. So you got to cut your way, your retreat option off. You got to cut yourself away from those negative people sometimes. And that's an unfortunate thing to say, and I know I may be stepping on some of your toes today, but you know what? 10 years ago when I got started in this industry, somebody had to step on my toes to get me to think the right way and take the right action. So I don't mind stepping on toes anymore. See, I used to shy away from that. But if I'm stepping on toes saying these things, that means I'm hitting really close to home. Okay? So you gotta cut yourself off from some of that negativity if you're trying to achieve something big. Right? And you got to break away from it. And you got to get away from those limiting beliefs, guys. Those limiting beliefs hold so many of us back. Right? Remember, golf club and golf club. Okay, come on. There we go. And then getting onto the goals part of this thing, because this is part of the action process, right? You got to set some goals. Because if you don't, then what are you doing? Right? And it's kind of like shooting in the dark. You may or may not hit something, that's better than nothing. But you've got to have a real plan of action in place. Faith, the Bible says faith without works is dead, right? So even in the Bible it says you play a part. You play a role in this. Okay? This isn't by accident, it's by intelligent design. So start with a big goal, whatever that big ultimate goal is. If it's to make $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, whatever it is. If it's a number goal, if it's to impact 1,000 lives, 10 million lives, whatever that is. Start with that and then break it down into what I call bite-sized pieces, right? Daily activity, weekly activity, monthly activity, right? And then 90 days, and then annual, 5-year, and 10-year. So in 10 years, what is it that, where do you want to be in 10 years from now? Okay? See, I was really hesitant to do that part when I first got started. That's why it took me 5 years before I made any money in network marketing. Because I never wrote it down. I knew what I wanted, but I never wrote it down. I never put it on paper, right? So I never took it from the spiritual, from the mind, and put it in the physical. You see, you got to do that part, guys. Because if you don't, then you may or may not achieve anything, but it's not going to be by design. It might be by accident. And it's very rare that you achieve anything by accident. So, whatever that is, whatever that goal is, and then figure out what that daily activity looks like. If it's making 10 calls a day, if you're in sales and marketing and finance, you need customers, right? Who needs some customers, the clients? We all do. Whatever it is, right? Whatever it is that we do, we are all looking for clients, customers, and somebody to serve. And keep that in mind. That's what we do. If you're in business for yourself, you're in service. Okay? No matter what that business is. So make those 10 calls a day, or sit down with 3 prospects every day, and make sure that you're putting together activity goals, not results goals. You don't control the results. I don't care how good you are. You cannot control the results. If you sit down in front of me and try to sell me something, okay, I may or may not need what you have. Right?
Right.
So make sure that it's activity goals. Play the numbers game. Okay? A lot of people like to say things like, oh, when you play the numbers game, it's like throwing mud against the wall. No, it's not. It's by design. Okay? I know and understand in my business, if I sit down with 10 people, 3 of them are going to get started in my business. That's where I'm at today. That may not be the number I'm looking for, but that's just what it is right now, right this second. Okay? That'll change down the road. So knowing that, if I want to sign 30 people up in my business, how many people do I need to sit down with?
100.
Right? Okay? Something like that, right? But you got to play that numbers game. So make sure when you're writing those goals down, they're activity driven, not results driven. Okay, so don't say I'm going to have 10 customers by the end of the week. Okay? Say I'm going to sit down with 100 prospects by the end of the week. Or I'm going to call 100 prospects by the end of the week, because you can do that. See, and then you can check that goal off, and guess what that just did for your belief, right? For your confidence, okay? For your posture, because you accomplished something. You actually got something done. Okay? And achieving small goals, it does feed your self-belief, and it does build that confidence, which we all need at times, right? See, sometimes people see me or somebody like Cedric that's just, an outgoing personality and, really confident at all times. We all have our days, correct or correct, right? I have my days, guys, where I go to the gym, I throw my hat on real low, a sweater so nobody recognizes me, and some sweatpants, right? Like this morning. And I go and hit the treadmill or the stair step or something for about 2 hours. I just need some me time. We're all like that. You got to recharge that battery every once in a while. Okay? And you got to stay focused on that. Because if you don't, you'll burn yourself out. I don't care how good you are, you can't make 500 calls a day for every day of your life. You're going to get burned out. Okay? I want to talk a little bit about the law of 212. So, how many of you guys are familiar with the law of 212? A couple of us, right? So just like the water, when we put water in a pot and you turn the heat on, the water doesn't boil until it hits 212 degrees, right? Well, that's kind of how your success works. You got to take enough action. You got to build that heat up to get it to 212 before you see the result. That water could be at 210, 211 degrees, and you see nothing. It looks still. There's nothing going on in that pot, right? Until it hits exactly 212, and then boom. It just boils over, right? So whatever that goal is for you, make sure you're constantly reinforcing it with activity. Whatever your appropriate activity is, you know your business better than I do, okay? But this is what I do every single day. I made the decision 10 years ago to get involved in the network marketing world. 10 years ago I made that decision. The first 5 years, I doodled, right? Did it very part-time, made lots of excuses, didn't go to a lot of meetings, didn't get on all the calls that we have. We have conference calls and things like that going on. Didn't come to all the networking events I could have, right? Until about that 5th year when I started having some results and then I met a mentor. You see, having a mentor can help you shortcut those, is the only shortcut to success, actually. Okay? Because they've made a lot of mistakes that you're going to make. And they can kind of guide you around those mistakes. And if you do make them, having them behind you can help you get back on track a lot quicker. Okay? So that's the results portion of the bar. So get a mentor. Whatever that mentor may look like for you, find somebody that's accomplished what you're trying to accomplish and make them your friend. Okay? If you know some coaches like Cedric, that can be a great mentor. That's somebody that can coach and guide you because he's built successful businesses before. He's helped many people build successful businesses. Okay? With what we do in the network marketing world, I always constantly am taking new people into the business and I take them under my wing and show them everything that I know. Okay? And show them, help them get results quickly. That's how I'm able to build a big business pretty quickly. I've built my company now 2 years. I'm in 16 states in Canada, and I'm over 1,500 representatives. Okay? But it started in my living room with maybe 4 or 5 people 2 years ago. Talked to those people, 2 said no, 2 said yes. I'm like, man, that's some good odds. I'm going to keep playing this game. Okay? And I'm going to keep playing until I win. Period. So you can either learn from your personal experience or learn from the experience of another. Okay, a wise man once said, learn from others' mistakes because you're never going to live long enough to make them all yourself, guys. You're never going to live long enough to do that. Okay? That's why having Ike around really shows me a lot of different things because he's much older than me. He's been around a lot longer than me. He's built successful businesses. He built this network. He started this network over 30 years ago. I wasn't even born yet. So I get to tap into that experience. And then the motivation part. I get asked this question all the time. Daniel, how do you stay so motivated? Okay? I'll tell you exactly how I stay so motivated. The key to motivation, guys, the root word in motivation is motive. So why do you do what you do? What's your why? In our industry, we call it a why. In Think and Grow Rich, it's called a burning desire. What is that for you? Okay? And it can't just be, I want to make some good income and live a decent life. That's not a big enough driver for most of us. Okay? It's got to be personal. It's got to hurt. Okay? One of the things that we say in our industry all the time is if your why doesn't make you cry, it's not big enough. So make sure that as you're out there doing whatever it is that you're doing, that you have a big driver behind you. And define that why clearly. Okay? For me personally, my mom and dad made the ultimate sacrifice. They sold everything they ever owned, left all their friends and family behind. Mind you, my mom has 9 brothers and sisters. My dad has 11. So they left lots of people behind to move to the United States so they could give me and my siblings a better opportunity. Because they made that ultimate sacrifice, my driver is, I want to retire my parents. I want them to be retired. And when I say retired, I don't mean like some cute little $1,300 a month retirement plan. Okay? I'm talking they can do whatever they want, whenever they want, with whoever they want, however they want, anywhere in the world they want. Okay? That's my driver. So every day when I wake up, I think about that. That's top of mind for me. And it drives me because I want to do well for them because they did what they did for me. Okay? I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that, right? So, you got to really stay consistent with those thoughts of what your why is. You got to really think about those things and dwell on them sometimes. Okay? Because that why will change. As you grow older, it'll change. And as you start achieving and getting closer to whatever that why is, and I promise you, if you stay consistent with raising the bar, you will. Okay? A couple years ago, I was actually able to pay off my parents' house. After I sold my restaurant, it's one of the very first things that I did. That was one of the things that I wanted to achieve. Well, that's out of the way, right? I had to replace that with something else. Otherwise, I would have been sitting around for the last 3 years doing nothing. Okay? Look, if I didn't have a big why in place, right? And then consistency. Guys, creating that plan and taking action is the final key to raising the bar in your life. Okay? So you've got to create that plan, whatever it is for you. Sit down with a business coach. Sit down with somebody that's in your industry, in your business, that's willing to help you, right? If you've got to hire a coach, I think Manesh left, but that's what he does for a living. And he's a great coach. He actually helped a friend of mine, Ian Bruckner, who some of you know. Ian is now earning close to $1 million a year because of the coaching and mentorship that he got from Manesh. So sometimes it's good to bring somebody into your world and have that outside perspective because sometimes we're so close to the tree, we don't see the forest. Okay? So you must continually execute on the first 3 keys and continue to work your plan until it becomes your reality. Okay? And you got to go at it with that belief. That's the biggest thing that I want you guys to take away from here today, is the belief part. Because if you can get that and start building it, the rest will actually kind of play itself out. It'll come to pass if you believe it. Okay? So start reading some of those books. Think and Grow Rich is a great one. Okay? Hung by the Tongue is another good one. Okay? Og Mandino, anything he's written is a good one. Okay? The Greatest Salesman in the World, Og Mandino. I just got done reading that. So pick up some of these things and start reading them. Okay? If you're in school, I know you guys are in school, right? Okay? Go listen to your teachers, listen to your parents. Okay? But go outside the curriculum too. Start picking up some of these other books because it'll fill in some of the gaps. There's lots of things that I learned in school, but there's a lot of other things that I didn't. Okay? I didn't need to know basic math. It's great to know it, but I really, that's not what's made me successful today. I have calculators on my phone. Real simple.
There you go, that's right.
That's the ultimate success.
As long as the bank account looks good, everything else takes care of itself, right? So, you got to have that definiteness of purpose, though, because, that why, again, that why is a big thing. It's one of the most important things that I can share with you, okay? Whatever you have to do to, if you have kids, you already have a why. I don't have kids, so, if you have kids, that's the biggest why for most people. I've met many, many thousands of people in this industry. Usually what I see is the ones that have kids that, whose kids are just struggling because of the parents' lack of results, rather, that's usually the biggest driver is people's kids. So if you have kids and you want to do better, look them in the eye and tell them, look, Mom and Dad's going to go out there tomorrow and do what's necessary so you can live a great life. Okay? So, my definite purpose, right, besides helping my parents, because that's my burning desire, definiteness of purpose is a little different. My definite purpose is to produce 1,000 six-figure income earners by the time I'm 35. That's 5 years from now. I just turned 30, okay, so I'm not in my 20s anymore, and it's, playtime's over. It's time to get serious. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do before I'm 35. Okay? It might even happen within the next 2 years, because we have a lot of great things happening right now, a lot of activity, and I want to be remembered in as many testimonials as possible. I've already got a little taste of this, right? Being a builder and a coach, I mentored so many over the last few years. I've seen some people go to network marketing events and walk across stage and they'll say something like, well, Daniel Zykaj is the one that helped me get to where I am today. And there's nothing more fulfilling than that, okay? Because making money and having success and achieving your goals is one thing. But guys, there's nothing more fulfilling than hearing your name come out of somebody else's mouth during their testimony. So I thank you guys for coming out today. That's my phone number up there. If you ever need anything, there's advice and stuff like that, give me a shout. If you want to see a magic trick, though, text Danny Z to that number, 55255. Thank you for coming out. I'm going to go ahead and turn it right back over to.
Any questions, comments? Yes, Mr. Dennis.
I know I say it frequently and I'll never stop saying it. Daniel is a young man that I'm one of the most exciting, enthusiastic, determined, persuasive, persistent. I've watched Daniel for over half a dozen years now, and he just never ceases to amaze me.
Thank you, Dennis. I appreciate it.
He told me to give you a
Is there any other questions, comments, guys? We have to do the open networking mission as well. So.
Daniel, it's really interesting because millennials, guys, millennials are the up and coming. Those are the ones who are in the 20s and the early 30s, but definitely in the areas. It's so unique to see a gentleman as poised as he is. He's an old soul, and yet he's so vibrant, so strong. And those things that he said about the why, I resonate to that very much. That is so key, is the why. And you found your why, and you're hanging right off of it, and you're running straight forward to your end goal. I applaud you.